All right, welcome. Welcome to the Orange County Historical Society. Thank you all for coming tonight. Wanted to make a few quick announcements to start with here. First of all, we have a couple events coming up. We're going to be doing a celebration of Judge Pleasant's 185th birthday. That's going to be Saturday, March 30th at Arden, out Majeska's old place, out in the canyon at 10 a.m. We're working out the details, but save the date. Judge Pleasant's, for those of you who don't know, was one of our founding members back in 1919. He was already the old-timer then, and the guy everybody went to for stories about what it was like in the pioneer years of Orange County. He was the original owner of Arden, sold the property and the house to Majeska, Helena Majeska, and who then, of course, added to the house and dramatically expanded and improved upon it. But that little pioneer cabin is still inside in the middle of that house, and you can still see the bones of it. I will even point out that if you go into one of the closets there, in Majeska's house, and you look around, it was wallpapered in the newspapers that Judge Pleasant's used to get off the train that came through El Toro. And so if you stand on your head and you bring a flashlight, you can read all about Billy the Kid and Pat Garrett and some really fascinating history from that era. So anyway, Judge Pleasant's is an interesting guy. There's been a lot written about him. There are more stories than I can possibly tell to introduce him now. Suffice it to say, he was in shootouts. He had face-offs with packs of wolves here in Orange County. He was the real deal. And so we will be out there celebrating his birthday on March 30th. And we're going to have a talk about him. There'll be a photo of the members, replicating the photo of our membership that was taken out there in 1920, or is it 21? So we'll be revisiting that and doing a new version of that photo. And again, we don't have all the details, but save the date and watch for our newsletter and our website. Also, another event we are setting up, coming up that you should be watching for, is on Saturday, April 20th. We're going to be having one of our history hikes. And this one will be a history hike to Flores Peak. And they talk about Juan Flores and his gang, and of course the dramatic escape he made from the lawmen there at Flores Peak. And when you see it, you will be utterly amazed at how he was able to ride down the side of that cliff and make an escape. It's a dramatic story, and we'll have Eric Plunkett there giving a sort of a running commentary, historical commentary, and telling the story as we hike out to the site and interpret this spot on the landscape. So that's coming up in our December meeting, where we're meeting here next month, second Thursday as always. Andy Schmidt will be here to talk about the Southern California Landmarks Project. Some of you may be following him on social media, where he's been documenting all of this, where they're going out photographing historic sites, beautiful photography, both aerial, like using drones, and ground level, and documenting historic sites all over Southern California and gathering information about them. And we'll be learning about what they have in mind to do with all of this, where it's going, and who's involved, and learn more about a really interesting project. So with that, and I also did want to mention that I was asked to talk about the Old Courthouse Museum Society. It's a nonprofit group that's been helping support the Old Courthouse Museum downtown Santa Ana for many years. And they just had their president of the society has just suddenly had to leave for family, health reasons. And so they are looking for some additional board members. So if you have a particularly warm spot in your heart for the old Orange County Courthouse, I know I do, but I can't join because I work there during the hours they're holding their meetings. But maybe when I retire. But if you have a warm spot in your heart, do consider it Lynn Yauger is back there at the back table, waving her hand, and she could give you more information about the society. It's a good bunch of people, and they're doing good work.
Are the third Wednesday at noon.
Third Wednesday at noon for their meetings. All right. So, with that said, again, thank you all for coming to Authors Night, and I'm just going to describe how this works. We haven't done this for a little while. So, how this works is each of the authors comes up, I'll introduce them, they'll come up, they have about 5 minutes to introduce their books, and then they'll sit down, we'll introduce another author, and so forth. And then after that, there'll be a chance to walk around, for everybody to talk to the authors, ask them questions, and buy their books and have them sign them. So this is kind of a rare opportunity. Also, a lot of these books are ones you don't see every day. There's some great Orange County history here, and these are not always the books that you're finding at, Barnes & Noble. So this is a great opportunity to get your hands on some good local history that you might not otherwise find, and ask all kinds of good questions. So, with that, I will just work my way around the room, and I will start with Doug Westfall. He's a publisher, lecturer, and writer. He's here to highlight 2 of his books, and he was born in Los Angeles in 1949. He claims authorship of 50 books and has given presentations in more than half the United States, as well as Canada, Latin America, Europe, and the Philippines. He is also the owner and operator of Paragon Publishing, and you'll have some of your books here tonight. So, yeah. So, Doug?
Thank you.
Take it away. I'm just going to have all the authors come up here so they can use the mic. And
My wife is over there shaking her head because she knows I can talk 3 hours on any book I have. So we have a problem here with the 5-minute rule, buddy. Anyway, my name is Doug Westfall. I write and publish books on American history. How many? 40 of them are on Orange County alone. And we have a special page of just veterans that came here. That's our veteran page right there on this side. Okay? And I've got World War II, I've got Custer's Last Stand, I've got the American Civil War, I've got Korea, of people who fought in those wars and came here to live in Orange. Didn't we all come here to live in Orange? Okay, just checking. Anyway, the books we brought tonight, we brought small ones because we know budgets are tight. We started doing these smaller books because of COVID, and before that, the recession. Do I need this microphone? Are you sure? Okay. Usually they tell me to put it away. And they come in color in black and white. And the reason we did black and white is because our color cost went up 150% in January. How nice of all those people to do that to me. I mean, I have large, color-bound, hardbound books that I don't know I can afford to print them right now. That's crazy. So this one's on the rancho that was here. Our rancho ran from Weir Canyon all the way around the Santa Ana River to Huntington Beach, and then all the way over to Newport and all the way back up. It's almost 80,000 acres, and he didn't even leave me one. Dude, what? So it's the whole story of the family and the rancho. And the interesting thing is, there's a small picture on the back. It's actually a drawing. We had longhorn cattle before Texas did. Don't let them fool you. The other one is on the Santiago Creek. It's one of our series. We have 8 books on just Orange. And we have the rancho, we have the town, we have a walking tour in 1888 with a map. I didn't want you to get lost. And, most of the buildings are still there. And the one on Santiago Creek, of course, Santiago Creek's the longest water body in Orange County. It's 28 miles long, starts at Jameson Spring, right below Santiago Peak, and comes all the way out, mostly through Modjeska Canyon is the primary feeder. Comes all the way down, it goes through Orange, and hits our Hart Park, goes all the way over and connects with the Santa Ana River. And it's a story, it's a walking tour. I've given a lot of walking tours on the Santiago Creek because it's just a joy to know that this is where the tanning vats were for the rancho. Or here's where the fossil is. I can drive 5 minutes from here and take another 5-minute walk, preferably in the daytime, and I can show you whale ribs in a rock this tall. Well, this is all an inland sea at one time. Aren't we glad it drained off? But anyway, I've been doing this for 30 years. I was a teacher for 20 before that, so you know I'm old, right? Okay, just checking. And I've taught 4th grade at Catella. I've taught college. For half my time, I taught in industry. I have 2 degrees, one in technology and one in education. And I ran an industrial training center for a $1 billion computer company. Unfortunately, I had teachers working for me in 26 states and 34 countries, and you really shouldn't leave them alone. You know, it's rude. So I went out and did that. But anyway, we have 8 books on just orange out of the 40, and the rest of them are all differential. I've got books on Garden Grove, I've got one on Santa Ana, and we've got more coming, so look forward to that. All right. You didn't kick me off. What's wrong with you?
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Doug. All right. I'm just going to work my way around the room here. So Eric Plunkett is the leading authority today on Orange County's Spanish, Mexican, and early American history. This guy has done more research than a whole lot of us put together on this subject, he never fails to amaze me with his ability to not only track down early documents, correspondence, but to then translate them, not just out of Spanish, but out of the Spanish of colonial California, which is a whole different ball of wax. And so his research has really brought a lot of new light to what was happening here during those years. So anyway, he teaches at the Placentia Yorba-Linda Unified School District. He is now, can I announce this too?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. He's the Orange County Teacher of the Year. Yeah. Way to try to turn them against you, man. It's not going to work. He's a native of Placentia, and he graduated with a degree in history from Cal State Fullerton. He's published several articles and co-authored a book about the Portola Expedition with Phil Brigandi. And he blogs about early history of Orange County at visionsofcalifornia.blogspot.com. So, Eric?
First, thank you so much, Chris. It's an honor to be here with all of you and all of these authors tonight, so thank you all so much. And the book that I wrote, and I know it's coming up on the screen here, is I'm interested in the beginning of this county, and where we're sitting is an important part of this, the early history of this county. We're near a village site of indigenous peoples who lived here in a village called Hutuukna, which is right at the bend of the Santa Ana River, think about where the intersection of the 55 and the 91, and actually all live over here. And so I was interested in the people who started this place and started this county. And if you're doing historical research, where's that going to lead you to the Spanish era? How many of you have ever heard of Father Serra? Okay, good, I'm in the right room. And I know this is coming up. What I seeked out to do is to tell Father Serra, or now Saint Junípero Serra's story here in the county, but really how his story interacted with the peoples who lived here. And these are the images that we have of him. He was a missionary who came here to convert the indigenous peoples into Spanish Catholics, right? And this is the story that's caused so much controversy. And what I wanted to do is get down to a local level. And to understand Serra, you have to understand this is what he hoped Orange County would look like one day. He anticipated that it would be a place where people would run basically ranchos or farms, and it would be like what it was like in Mexico City. And so this was kind of his dream for the county. And it totally worked out, right? Now it says concrete. But of course, who did he encounter here? He encountered a people who already had their own culture, their own ways of life, and lived a way of life that certainly would still be continuing if we weren't all here today. And so we can go around these areas around even where we are today, and you'll find holes in the rocks where they were grinding acorns and getting food for themselves. So what's Sarah's story here? And what I found out was that Sarah was here 5 times. In fact, he may have passed right through where we are right this moment on his way up and down this coast of California. He was just passing through his first 2 times in 1772, 1774. Think George Washington, think Ben Franklin. That's about the time period we're talking about. And then he was here for the founding of Mission San Juan Capistrano in 1776. And then he was here twice more to confirm the Indians who had become a part of that mission establishment in 1778 and 1783. And so I wanted to know the stories of what happened while he was here. This is the first image we have in California ever. And so think that this is what Orange County looked like at San Juan Capistrano at that time. And so it's a colonial establishment, right? And in doing so, I uncovered all sorts of wonderful stories that connect the entire county together. Chevy, right here. If, like, for instance, you've ever been to O'Neill Park, that's O'Neill Park right there, where there was a village called La Una, and the people who were living there came out and met Serra while he was founding Mission San Juan Capistrano, and he thought that they were there to kill him. And he actually thinks that he's going to be martyred in this spot, and it's this very intense transaction that happens there. Fortunately, that doesn't happen, and it goes to say something about the peoples who are living there and trying to find peaceful solutions to their big differences. That page right there is out of the biography of Serra in 1787, and that is the very first time Orange County as we know it was ever put into print, telling that exact story. And that was, like I said, printed in Mexico City in 1787. And just to close up, there are a bunch of human stories of people who were from Orange County, living in villages here, that end up being a part of the mission and being a part of the story here that I dug into. At the top of Serra's writing, he baptized individuals at San Juan Capistrano who came from villages in that surrounding area. At the bottom right, we still have books and things that he inscribed that are there at the mission today. And at the bottom left, just to kind of tie this all together, I dug into the story of a woman named Alam, who was just 14 years old when the Spanish first came here. She was living in her village in just south of county. And she ended up marrying one of the soldiers. And this was part of Serra's plan to try to settle this area. And after her husband died, her soldier husband died, that's her giving permission for her son to get married many years later with the sign of the cross. So it goes to show her story and what she went through throughout her life. So Serra is a part of this greater story, and together those stories merge into the beginnings of our county. So thank you all so much for hearing me out. If you'd like to, if you're interested, come check out the book. It's good to be here.
Thank you as always.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
All right. Our next author is Ted Daugherty. Ted was actually here some years ago now to promote his first book on this very topic, which theoretically is the first edition of the same book, but honestly, when I saw how much new content was in this book, how much it was expanded, and how many more photos, and it really is a whole different book at this point. So I thought it a good plan to invite him back with what is theoretically the second volume, The History of Knott's Scary Farm. Daugherty is a writer, producer, and director for theme park special events and attractions such as Knott's Scary Farm, Universal Studios, Hollywood Halloween Horror Nights, and several others. The new book is theoretically a new edition, like I say, but so much more. So, Ted, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. I brought notes because I will ramble on for way more than 5 minutes about this. I am so happy to be here. I'm honored to be here, and so I appreciate all of you joining us today. For many Orange County residents, when it comes to September and October in the Buena Park area, it typically means one thing at nighttime on the weekends. Avoid the traffic on Beach Boulevard in La Palma. It's just terrible. But despite that traffic, all of those people are attending a very special event. I think a lot of folks are pretty well aware of the importance of Knott's Berry Farm and its place in theme park history, but some folks may not be as aware as to the important relevance of Knott's Scary Farm and its positive impact on the theme park industry. Knott's Scary Farm debuted in 1973, so it just celebrated its 50th anniversary. And when it started, it only started as a 3-day event, which is a far cry from nearly 30 days that they do now and more recently. But those 3 nights sold out before the event even began. It was as if this region was waiting for an event like this. Yes, there was haunted houses before Knott's Scary Farm, and not only in Orange County, but throughout the United States. Trick-or-treating was way before Knott's Scary Farm. People enjoyed horror movies before Knott's Scary Farm, and going on carnival dark rides and fun houses, and enjoyed being surrounded by ghosts in the dark in an attraction named the Haunted Mansion over at Knott's Berry Farm's neighbor at Disneyland. And the Haunted Mansion opened just 4 short years before Knott's Scary Farm debuted. So from the very beginning, people loved this event. And so it grew from just a Southern California tradition to really a worldwide phenomenon. Because over 85% of all theme parks now host some sort of Halloween or fall-related event. And all of those events trace their roots back to Knott's Scary Farm, because Knott's Scary Farm is the longest-running Halloween-themed event at any theme park in the entire world. And it's continued to grow astronomically throughout the years. More nights, more people, more monsters, more attractions. It's employed thousands of people and has entertained and terrified millions. But despite that success, the Knott family and Cedar Fair, the company that purchased Knott's Berry Farm in 1997, neither one of those entities really documented how this event started. They didn't keep any kind of archives. They didn't document how it continued to grow because it didn't really occur to them, because this was just a kind of a fun seasonal event that brought in some additional revenue outside of those peak summer months. The first edition of my book, like Chris was saying, that was released in 2012 in conjunction with the 40th anniversary of Knott's Scary Farm. And so that was researched and written to fill in those missing puzzle pieces that were lost in time. And, this event has influenced Disney, Universal Studios, and some of the top entertainment companies in the world. So this was a story that I felt needed to be told. I'm always going to have a very special place in my heart for Chris Jepson and the Orange County Archives. I remember years ago, I met Chris and Phil Brigandi at the time over at the Orange County Archives, and I kind of told them about this wacky idea I had for writing this book on the history of Knott's Scary Farm. And they did not judge. I think they understood the relevance. And so I remember Chris kind of came from outside of this back room with this kind of small packet of documents in this folder, and we were wearing the white gloves. And he proceeded to show me the first photos, the earliest photos I'd ever seen of Knott's Scary Farm. And that was one of many examples that kind of started me on this journey. And so at that time, it took over 2 years of research, over 80 interviews of past employees to really kind of put those puzzle pieces together. And so that book came out, that first edition, and it was a lot of fun. Well, fast forward a decade later for the 50th anniversary, well, we had 10 more years of development and innovations, more stories that needed to be told. And so what we did was we re-edited the original text to include stories and more photographs that I didn't have the first time around. And then we did add a whole new chapter to bring the book fully up to date. And so for the Orange County Historical Society and the archives, I feel we're kind of all and these wonderful authors here, it's like we're kind of these kindred spirits. At least for me, it's always been about the research and really kind of uncovering the secrets of the past to preserve those secrets so that way future generations can learn and know long after I'm gone the wonderful stories that made Knott's Scary Farm the world's largest and scariest Halloween party. So thank you so much for joining us today. If you want to, come swing by and say hello. So thank you, everybody.
All right. Our next speaker is Robert Stoffel, who's been, speaking of the archives, has been coming into the archives for quite a while now and digging through what we have and digging through lots of other collections, anywhere he can get his hands on more information, and has been doing, and I was really impressed when he handed me a copy of the new book. It's, you never know, I think you are a first-time author? First-time author. You never know the first-time author. Oh, you never know the first-time author what you're going to get, no matter how enthusiastic they are. But this is really impressive. He has a background in radio here. He was Chief of Operations and Emergency Communications Coordinator for Orange County Public Safety Countywide Coordinated Communications Center. He later served as a director of the Orange County Sheriff's Communications and Technology Division. And after 30 years of service to the county and its first responder agencies, he retired in 2016. And of course has been working on this diligently ever since. So, Robert?
Thank you, Chris. Yes, first-time author, publisher, whatever you want to call it. I got into this because there was no history of public safety communications in Orange County. And I'm thinking, well, there's a New York Times bestseller if ever I heard a topic. Somehow it hasn't made it there yet, but maybe someday. So I honestly bought a radio scanner. Some of you might know what those are. In the old days, you could buy one and you could listen to your local police and fire. And I did that in high school, and I had kind of an interest, and I was a police explorer while I was in high school. But it was the communications thing that really got me, and that was the bug that kind of got me. So way back in the 70s, I was already collecting stuff about two-way radio systems in Orange County. And when I got my first job in 1985 at the County of Orange, what I learned was Orange County is probably and still the best county in the nation when it comes to providing a radio system for its first responders. A lot that you heard about after 2001 was NYPD and FDNY couldn't talk to each other on the radio. They couldn't coordinate their response. Orange County, from 1934 to the present day, has always included every city and first responder agency into its so-called radio communications network. So we are, and still to this day, we're still one of the few counties in the state or around the country that have that level of interoperability. That's the fancy word that came out of the 9/11 report. Well, Orange County had interoperability already in place. So I worked for 30 years and I collected stuff because I'm a pack rat when it comes to that kind of stuff, threw it in a box. And after I retired, I started opening boxes thinking, what am I going to do with all of this stuff? And there really had been no actual history of public safety communications in Orange County. And I thought, you know what, that's what I'm going to do. Let's put together the first 85 years of the history of public safety communications. If that doesn't get me to the New York Times bestseller list, what will? I don't know. I didn't know what I was doing. I put it together. Thank you, COVID, because a lot of days sitting at home with nothing to do allowed me to write. And I basically went to a printer and I said, I want 200 books. I want it hardcover. I want it in full color. Well, it's going to be pretty expensive. Well, you know what? I'm only going to do this once, and I want it to really reflect what we have here. And yeah, you know what? People in public safety communications, they're all over it. Not too many people beyond that, but that's okay. You know what? I did it to hopefully record that history. And maybe somebody who's working there now will think about the next 80 years, perhaps. So if you're interested in radio communication systems, you're going to love it. If you're interested in Orange County radio systems, you're going to love it. If you want to learn that in the very, very early days, 1940s, a police officer would get on the radio and say, "Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, how do you hear my radio?" You're not going to read that, because that didn't really happen. That's just me trying to put some levity into the situation. Woo! But you are going to read about how in 1933 discussions started with the Orange County Board of Supervisors, and how in 1934 a radio broadcast station, basically an AM radio transmitter, went on the air, and the 20 or so cities and the sheriff and the fire department had receivers, much like your AM FM radio today, in their vehicles, and it was one way. The call went out, and we hoped you heard it, and you're on your way. This was before we could talk back by radio to a dispatcher. And from that point, I kind of document all the way to the present, and even still, even though we're all talking to each other, Orange County has a very advanced radio communication system. So that's kind of what it's all about. If you want to know, if you hear a police officer saying, "Oh, yeah, I'm 1098, going 1019, I'll be 107B," yeah, you can read in the book, because I have a list of all the radio codes that we use in Orange County. If you, what's on 460.500 megahertz? It's in the book. You can read and see how we're using that in Orange County. But you can also read the history. Lots of photos, lots of images. If you're having difficulty sleeping at night, this might be a good investment, because there's enough pages that it will last you for the rest of your lifetime. One page will get you to sleep. I had a lot of the history, but what was interesting was I found gems with Chris's help. And so a lot of the early stuff from the 30s and 40s especially is in the book because of what was in the archives. So anyway, great to be here. Feel free to stop by if you're so inclined. And thanks to all the other authors that are here tonight.
Thank you, Robert. Wow, talk about the hard sell. All right. Our next author is Donna Friess, and she's a fourth generation Californian and retired Cypress College educator. Another of her books, she's brought, did you bring 2 books with you tonight? 4 books with you tonight. She explores I will not get into the story of her book, but she is the author of 6 books and is renowned for her work raising awareness of and strengthening laws against child abuse, in addition to her strong interest in local history. So she maintains a website at www.drdonnafriess.com. So Donna, would you come up and...
I'm delighted to be here.
We're delighted to have you here.
I have appeared as Isadora Forrester, one of the folks that I fell in love with during my research. So what happened to me is I became let me check my time, a docent in Mission San Juan Capistrano upon retiring from Cypress College. And my husband discouraged me. He said, "Oh my gosh, you'll have to keep repeating yourself." And, "Oh, that's right, Kim. I don't want to repeat." And then I thought, wait a minute. For 45 years I've been repeating myself. I can repeat myself. So, Eric, my clientele are fourth graders. A mission visit as part of the California standards. So I am just loving having my fourth graders.
Good for you.
So I wasn't a docent very long when this urge started growing in me and growing in me. What can I write? I was researching like a madwoman. What can I write to shed light on the birth of Orange County that Pam Gibson Hallen hasn't already written? She's my friend. And so I'm pondering this, and I was on my way home one day, and I had to stop my car as the horses trotted across the street. And then I passed a sign at Tar Farm, whoa! And it started going in my head, wow, what if I told the story of Orange County through the lens of the equestrian life? And so that's what I've done. I will say, Chris said bring a lot of books out. I've already sold out, I'm sorry. This is my visual aid. But they are at Amazon.com. It's full color. And it started at the beginning when we found our own equine fossil, 170,000-year-old equine fossil found in San Juan Capistrano. We had horses 50 million years ago. What is this? The Spanish brought us horses. No, they did not. We had our own horses, thank you very much. And so I did get a little lost in the past, and at the Page Museum at La Brea Tar-Pits, I admit it. Finally, I got up to at least the 18th and 19th century, and that Juan Flores was horrible. He murdered people in our dry goods store in San Juan, and his girlfriend lived there. It was very bad. Anyway, I'm not happy with Juan Flores.
Hey, me neither.
At all. So then I come to the part about Isadora Forrester, and she was a force. She and her husband, well, Don Juan Forrester, he would not allow any English spoken in their home, which their biggest rancho is down on Camp Pendleton, and it's still there now. But she was quite a force behind the 220,000-acre rancho that they had all the way from Newport all the way down to Oceanside. So I have been more lately appearing as Isadora, but I get myself in a little trouble. I start taking tours around, I start in Spanish, and then some guy that really has Spanish comes back to me with these conjugated big words, and then I have to, well, I don't break character, but I do break into English. So anyway, Isadora was a very strong character, and we have an inn at the mission next door to our beautiful Mission San Juan Capistrano, which is the oldest standing building in California. And we celebrate Isadora's life there. So her grandson times 4 has been coming and visiting me and bringing me the pictures of the brands that John gave her for a wedding gift and so on. I've become very enamored of Isadora. So you can go to Isadora's Cafe if you care to in San Juan Capistrano. So I had a lot of fun studying the birth of Orange County through the idea of our equine heritage. We have 700,000 horses in California, a $7 billion economic really force. And San Juan claims to be the horse capital of Orange County. So that was pretty cool. And then we had COVID. And I woke up one day going, oh my God, I grew up next door to a working oil well. What do you mean way back in the 1970s? Well, this was in the 40s. That's way back, Robert. And so I wrote a book about Orange County when it was part of Los Angeles County. These are my great grandparents on the beach at the pier in Venice. So that's a fun book, and I have enough of those with me. I feel like Orange County, before it separated, it was part of Los Angeles County. These are a gift. I am raising money for the Orange County Historic, my husband's always saying hysterical society. I have to be really careful. Orange County Historical Society. If you would like one of these for a donation, and the money I'm going straight to that back table, the citrus ranchers in Placentia, if you read their biographies, they disappeared in the summer. They disappeared up into the San Bernardino National Mountains along the Santa Ana River at the watershed, and they had a 130-acre fishing camp. Ken, this is my husband, Ken. We bought a stone cottage there that was built in 1915. We bought it in 1972, way back in 1972. And I was a young mom with all these kids, and my college roommate, Janet, was a young mom with all these kids. And so the older people were telling us the whole story of the history of the homesteaders and all that. And we're listening, but we were also chasing our children around the water of the Santa Ana River. Well, fast forward till the 90s, we wrote that, and this is the second edition of it. So this is the story of the Orange County citrus industry and the arrival of the trains, and specific to the mountain cabin. And we were absolutely devastated by Hillary, the tropical storm Hillary. A life was lost at Seven Oaks above us. 5 mobile homes washed down the river, were stuck in trees. And the whole time, this one little apple tree, since the massive flood of 1938 through the 2023 devastation, has been giving off apples. So this is a little $9 history story, but it's told from the point of view of the apple tree. So I offer these tonight. I'm sorry I'm sold out of Whispering. No, I'm not sold out of Whispering Waters, only the horse book. So I think this concludes my broadcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we appreciate the donation as well. That's very generous. And I'm sorry to say our final speaker tonight, Martin Brower, apparently is not with us. We wish him well, and we hope everything is all right. I've been trying to get him here for years, and just tracking him down has been tricky, so I was so pleased to track him down finally this year and get him to say, yes, I'll come and speak. But again, I hope everything is all right with him. But nonetheless, we have a fantastic panel of authors here who you have all met, and thank you to all of our authors tonight. And so I encourage all of you to come up, talk with the authors, buy books, get them to sign it. If they run out of books, they can probably set you up with a way to buy them and get them signed later. So again, thank you all for coming tonight, and also do help yourself to goodies in the back. We've got cookies and little churro donut holes and all kinds of good stuff. So thank you all for coming. We'll see you next month.